Hi everyone, I hope you're all having a great day. This video is for all of the abandoned and estranged parents of adult children who have been obliterated from their adult children's lives without any explanation or interest in resolving any issues. And I'm specifically addressing those types of parents, whom I am included, because I have experienced my own parents who were deserving of my estrangement from them for many years. So I'm not talking to all of those abusive parties, but to the parents who really did our best and have all of those fond memories. And just out of the blue, we were completely cut out of our adult children's lives. Now, I've mentioned this before, but in my case, it was gradual, and it started with emotional abuse. It started with insults, with degrading me, finding fault with me, and ignoring me. Interestingly enough, that was exactly how her father treated me. Genetic? Probably. Who knows? But I'm leaning towards that strong possibility in my case. Well, after some 5 years, maybe even 6 or 7 of this behavior, very passive-aggressive stuff. Difficult to kind of put your finger on about, gee, what did I do to upset her this time? Or why is she so disgusted with me? What is it that I did that made her feel this way? And this goes back to how I talked about other people's emotions. We are not responsible for other people's emotions. We are not responsible for fixing their emotions. And I think sometimes because we were parents, we still feel that obligation. And I'm going to share something that may seem rather cold, but the way I was treated was very cold. And I believe that my way of dealing with it is really the most effective and the most healthy for me. And hopefully it might be a good suggestion for you. Now, whether or not your adult child was distant from you or even abusive to you prior to becoming estranged, the fact that they did that without any attempts at reconciliation is a clear indicator of their personality. And because I have attempted many times to reconcile with abusive people in my past, I have learned that personality type will not change. And I'm not going to name any particular personality type, but I'm more so addressing the behavior, the dismissive, lack of empathy, self-serving, attention-seeking, and complete disregard for the person who raised you. And again, this is for parents who really did your very best and probably still blame yourselves. And please don't, because whatever happened is in the past. And in particular, if your adult child has absolutely no interest in even having an honest conversation, that is not your fault at all. And so I think we need to take blame out of the equation and just look at it for what it is. And I have done that with my own scenario, with my own daughter. And I have 2 granddaughters who I have no idea even the younger one's name, and I really don't want to know. And I'll tell you why. Because I'm not going to cry over something that could have been, or should have been, or might have been. Because the reality is, they're not in my life because my daughter has kept them from my life. And I have decided that being an estranged parent of such a cold-hearted person is really a blessing in disguise. Because I have decided that by accepting that decision that was hers, despite my many attempts to talk about what I did, what I said, how she feels, what she wants to do, what I can fix, what I can't fix, all of these attempts were met with stone silence and a dismissal of not only me, but my emotions as being irrelevant. Well, please know that you are not irrelevant and that you were a person before you were a parent, as I was. And we will continue to be worthy of our own lives as our own person after raising our children. And so this is how I look at it now, and I feel great. I'm not going to mourn over what could have been, nor am I going to hope for what might be, because what might be can never fix what already has been. And what has been is the behavior my daughter has clearly shown herself to be capable of. And regardless of your age, and I'm almost 70, and somebody asked me something if I dye my hair. No, I don't dye my hair. This is my natural color. My father was, he looked a lot like me, or I look a lot like him. And he had jet black hair. And someone actually asked me, a couple of people asked me if I have Native American in my history. And you know what? That's interesting because in the town where I grew up, there were Native Americans in my grandparents' years. So who knows? Maybe something happened along the way. And I would love to know how to find that out if anybody has any idea. Because maybe I have some traits that are similar to Native Americans. But anyway, I do not dye my hair. Now, back to being an estranged parent. Because we are parents who have been deemed no longer valid in our adult children's lives. Now let's say, for instance, the phone rang. Just for giggles, the phone rings, and it's my daughter. And she says, "Hey, Ma, want to meet your grandkids?" I would say no. Why would I say no? Because I'm never going to put myself in the position of being potentially hurt, abused, disparaged, ignored, and belittled ever again. The door has been shut. Why? Because I deserve to reclaim my life, and so do you. And I read all of my comments, and that's why I'm always behind in responding. Especially like today, I was out and about most of the day hiking with the dogs, and I was not online at all, so I'm sure I'm even further behind now. But I read all of your comments, and I read all of your heartache, and I feel your pain. And I so want to inspire and encourage you all to please know that you don't deserve to be in pain anymore. You don't deserve to mourn anymore. And you don't deserve to feel like the victim anymore. Because you can free yourself as I did. And just tell yourself, and I've said this before, it is what it is. They are who they are, and we are who we are. And when we brought that little cute chubby baby home from the hospital, I loved that little baby to the ends of the earth. But even then, there were little signs where she didn't want to be hugged. She didn't really want me to comb her hair. just uh, little subtle things that I sensed very much like her dad. And am I finding fault with her? No. But I'm being observant as to her own specific personality. And she has a right to that, as we have a right to ours. And so if our adult children have decided to be a disappointment to us, then we need to look at what our expectations were. Now, my expectations were only to be respected. My hopes were that we could always be close. But both never happened. And I think when our expectations are smashed to smithereens, we are entitled to our shock, to our dismay, to our grief, and we deserve whatever time it takes to process all of that. And I left my daughter's home many, many times, crying so hard I could barely see the road. And each time I would call her when I got home, still crying, wanting to talk, and she would sigh and say, "Oh my gosh, are you getting emotional again? I don't want to deal with this," and hang up. Well, that gives you a clue in terms of lack of empathy and lack of any possibility moving forward of ever having that empathy. And did she ever have it for me in my life? I am not sure. And it's important that I explain that I am not finding fault with her. I am opening my eyes to the person she is. And when I left her dad and divorced her dad, I suddenly realized the person he was. So I divorced her dad, and in a way, my daughter divorced me. In a way. And I have no more obligation to either one. And your obligation, as mine, is to ourselves, because we deserved it and we earned it. And I hope that this video has helped you if you're still going through that shock phase and that mourning phase, especially thinking about those grandkids. Now here's something else that does not bother me anymore. When my daughter gave birth to my first grandchildren, I had lived in New Hampshire and I had horses. I had my own little farm, my own barn, my own pasture, my own horses. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if I just got a pony, took care of it, paid for everything. Ponies are cheap. And if my granddaughter showed any interest at all, as I did, that would be a wonderful experience for her growing up. But my daughter put her foot down on that and said, absolutely, no way can she have a pony. And all of those dreams went flying straight out the proverbial window. Now, my daughter was not interested in horses, neither was my husband. But it wasn't a matter of forcing my interest on my grandchildren. It was the excitement in presenting the possibility and the opportunity. And I look back now and I think, what would I do if she wanted me to be involved in my granddaughter's lives now? What would I say? Now, this is going to sound harsh, but I would decline. Why? Because they are under the influence of my daughter, and they will continue to be under her influence until they are at least 18 or beyond. And those are the formative years. And I am not going to be subjected to drama, to lies, to twisted distortions of who I am, nor do I feel like I have to prove who I am to anybody. And that is their loss. It is not mine, because I have moved on and I have decided that my life matters the most. And I am very curious to hear about any of your viewpoints on this. And if I really allowed myself to think about all the what ifs, I could really come up with a lot. And that would be very depressing. But to look at all the what ifs is not conducive to our health, nor is it going to change anything, right? And some of you have insisted that I write my granddaughter's letters, and I am not going to do that. One of the reasons is the last time that I heard from my daughter was in a text message, Christmas Eve, 2020. Yeah, 2020. And when I first saw the first half of the first sentence, I was excited because I hadn't heard from her in 5 years. And I thought, wow, it's Christmas Eve. She's getting nostalgic. She's reaching out to me. This is great. So when I clicked on the text, have you ever had like a dagger hit your heart emotionally? Because what the text said was, if you ever contact me again, I'm going to go and get a restraining order against you. I don't want anything to do with you, and I don't want you anywhere near your grandchildren. And that was that. Where that came from, I have no idea, because I hadn't spoken to her, tried to contact her, or anything in 5 years. And I realized that I was dealing with a very hateful and vindictive person. And if any of you have read my book, I See the Elephant, I've already been through that many times over. And I'm not going there again. And so I kind of feel like I'm holding all of these wonderful things that they will never, ever be allowed to be included in. And will they ever see my YouTube videos or read my books? If it's up to my daughter, they won't. But will they as adults? Who knows? Maybe they'll be angry towards their mother for keeping them from me. Or maybe they'll be like her and they'll be so jaded, they'll think, oh yeah, it's a good thing we didn't have anything to do with her. So I don't want to take the chance, and I never will. So again, this hopefully does not sound too cold, but this situation is cold, and it's a cold reality. And so if you're still feeling overwhelmed, guilty, lost, distressed, you're in mourning. And what I would like to suggest is please treat yourself to all of the wonderful things that you love to do. Because that's what I did. And it can be a little thing like going to the shelter and getting a puppy, buying a new outfit, or those new expensive shoes that you didn't think you deserved. Well, go get them. Make a bubble bath, buy a new nightgown, and light a candle, and tell yourself you're worth it. And you're worth all those wonderful things you haven't done yet. Because you've always, always deserved those things. And that you did your best. And if your best wasn't good enough, then that's their loss, not yours. And I don't hate my daughter. I don't have any animosity towards her at all. But it's her behavior that I'm disgusted with and horrified by. Am I surprised? Not really, because that's the way her father was. That's the way my mother was, and that's the way my own father was. So there are definitely genetics at play here. And people are who they are, and we have to accept it, decide how we're going to deal with it, create our boundaries, and make our life for ourselves, because no one else is going to do it for us. And that, believe it or not, in closing, can be a very freeing thought. Because if you're going to sit around and wait for someone who's treated you badly to suddenly get it and call you up and say, oh, wow, I didn't realize I was doing that. I'm so sorry. Well, sorry means nothing, because I've heard that before too. Be careful if you're thinking about reconciling with an abusive person, whether it's an adult child, a friend, anybody. Be careful. Be wise. Take your time. Think it through. And if you don't feel comfortable, don't do it. Because I won't. I'm going to keep my life the way it is. I'm going to enjoy my freedom from all the drama, from all the tears. And I haven't cried since that Christmas Eve, 2020. And let me tell you, that's a really great feeling. Because that night I cried. It was one of those horrific, soul-crushing cries that I never want to experience ever again. And I'm not going to let myself ever again either. I so want to be an inspiration to all of you, regardless of the situation. And I'm getting the sense that it's kind of my calling, because I've always been this way as a kid. And now that I've put the pieces of my own life back together, I want to share those pieces for all of you. And please ask me if there are other topics you'd like me to talk about, or other things in my life that almost broke me. Because I've been through it, I'm done, and I don't mind talking about it. So I hope you're all having a great day. I hope this video was helpful. And again, please share any questions, comments, or any ideas that you'd like me to talk about further, especially about being an estranged parent. And I do not speak to her father. Haven't spoken to him in years. Have no interest to. There's nothing to talk about. And I strongly suspect that they are very close. And that is a good thing, because they are very much alike. And so be it. So thanks so much, everyone. Please have a nice evening and treat yourself something special, because you deserve it.